The sound of shattering glass echoes through the million-dollar Smith mansion as Emily frantically sweeps up the pieces of what was once her grandmother's antique vase. But what happened next shocked everyone, because this wasn't just about a broken vase. This was the moment everything began to unravel, and by the end of this story, one woman's courage would expose a web of lies that would destroy a family's perfect facade forever. Clara Robinson adjusts her cleaning supplies as she enters the grand foyer of the Smith estate, the morning sunlight casting long shadows across the marble floors. She's polished 1,000 times before. At 52, Clara has worked as a housekeeper for wealthy families for over 2 decades. But nothing prepared her for what she's about to discover in this seemingly perfect home. "Good morning, Mrs. Smith," Clara calls out, her voice echoing through the expansive hallway lined with oil paintings worth more than most people's homes. Emily Smith appears at the top of the curved staircase, her designer robe flowing behind her like she's walking a runway. At 38, Emily has everything money can buy, yet something in her eyes seems hollow. Desperate. "Oh, Clara, I didn't expect you so early," Emily says, her voice carrying an odd tension that Clara immediately notices. As Clara begins her morning routine, she notices something that stops her cold. The antique jewelry box on the hallway console table is gone. Yesterday, it sat proudly displaying Emily's collection of inherited pearls and vintage brooches. Today, there's just a faint dust outline where it once stood. "Mrs. Smith," Clara calls up the stairs, her heart beginning to race. The jewelry box from the hallway. Has it been moved for cleaning? Emily's footsteps pause at the top of the stairs. The silence stretches uncomfortably long. "Oh, that old thing. I donated it to Cluttered. You know how I hate clutter," Emily finally responds. But her voice wavers in a way that sets off every alarm bell in Clara's experienced mind. But the real shock was still coming, because as Clara continues her work, she discovers this is just the beginning. In the living room, the sterling silver candlesticks that graced the mantelpiece for months have vanished. The crystal decanter set that Jackson Smith received as a wedding gift sits empty in the china cabinet, but the matching glasses have disappeared entirely. Clara's hands tremble as she dusts the empty spaces where precious items once sat. In 22 years of housekeeping, she's never encountered anything like this. Families don't just start donating their most valuable possessions without reason. "Mrs. Smith," Clara says more firmly when Emily descends for her morning coffee, "I'm noticing quite a few items seem to be missing. Should I be concerned about security?" Emily's coffee mug clatters against the marble countertop. Coffee splashes across the pristine surface, and for just a moment, Clara sees something raw and terrified flash across Emily's perfectly made-up face. "Missing? Nothing's missing, Clara. I've been redecorating, that's all. You know how these old things accumulate," Emily laughs, but it's a sound devoid of joy. "Sometimes you just need to start fresh. Clear out the old to make room for the new." Clara watches as Emily's hands shake while she wipes up the spilled coffee. This woman who commands respect at charity galas and country club luncheons suddenly looks fragile, like she might shatter at the slightest touch. Little did Clara know that this conversation would set in motion a series of events that would expose secrets worth more than all the missing treasures combined. As Emily hurries from the kitchen, claiming she has important errands to run, Clara notices something that makes her blood run cold. On the counter, partially hidden beneath a stack of unopened mail, lies a pawn shop receipt dated just 2 days ago. Clara's eyes skim the details, and her heart pounds as she recognizes the description of items that perfectly match the missing jewelry box and its contents. This decision would change everything, because Clara faces an impossible choice. She can pretend she never saw the receipt, keep her job, and maintain the peaceful facade of the Smith household. Or she can dig deeper into what's clearly a devastating secret that Emily is desperately trying to hide. As footsteps echo from upstairs and Emily's voice drifts down, Clara carefully photographs the receipt with her phone, her hands trembling with the weight of what she's uncovered. But as she slips her phone back into her apron pocket, she hears Emily's voice on the phone, and the words she catches make her realize this is far bigger than missing jewelry. The truth about what Emily Smith has been hiding will shock you. And what Clara discovers next will prove that sometimes the people we trust most are capable of the most devastating betrayals. Clara stared at the evidence in her trembling hands, her heart pounding so loudly she was certain the entire Smith household could hear it. The diamond bracelet Emily claimed was lost lay tucked beneath a stack of old magazines in the kitchen drawer, along with Mrs. Henderson's antique brooch from next door and a gold watch she'd seen Mr. Peterson frantically searching for just last week. But how had she ended up here, risking everything for people who barely acknowledged her existence? 6 months earlier, Clara had stood outside the same mansion, clutching a crumpled newspaper ad in her sweaty palm. She'd been 3 weeks behind on rent, her daughter Malayan needed new school shoes, and her pride was the only thing she had left to swallow. The unemployment office had been a dead end, and cleaning houses was the only work that didn't require references she couldn't provide. "Just be yourself, Clara," she had whispered to her reflection in the car mirror that morning. "You've got this." Emily Smith had interviewed her in the pristine living room, studying Clara like she was examining a piece of furniture she might purchase. "You understand discretion, I assume. What happens in this house stays in this house." Clara had nodded eagerly, desperate for the job that would keep her small apartment and put food on the table. "Yes, ma'am. Absolutely." Now, months later, that same discretion felt like a trap closing around her throat. She carefully placed the stolen items back exactly where she'd found them, and reached for the small leather notebook that had caught her eye. Emily's handwriting filled page after page with dates, names, and dollar amounts. Mrs. Patterson's emerald ring, $2,400. The Johnson's silver candlesticks, $850. Mr. Davidson's coin collection, $3,200. Clara's stomach churned. This wasn't just theft. It was systematic, calculated betrayal of an entire neighborhood's trust. "Clara, are you still here?" Jackson Smith's voice echoed from the foyer, making her jump and quickly shove the notebook back into the drawer. "Yes, Mr. Smith. Just finishing up in the kitchen," she called back, her voice slightly higher than usual. Jackson appeared in the doorway, his usually impeccable suit wrinkled, his tie hanging loose around his neck. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his usually perfect hair looked like he'd been running his hands through it all day. "Have you seen Emily today?" he asked, leaning heavily against the doorframe. "She was supposed to meet me for lunch, but she never showed. Her phone keeps going straight to voicemail." Clara felt a chill run down her spine. "She left around 10 this morning, sir. Said she had errands to run." Jackson's shoulders sagged. "Errands? Right. She's always running errands these days." He looked at Clara with tired eyes. "Can I ask you something? Has Emily seemed different to you lately? Distant? Secretive?" The question hung in the air like a loaded gun. Clara's mind raced. Should she tell him what she suspected? Would he even believe her? Or would he assume the black maid was just trying to cause trouble for his pristine white wife? I wouldn't know, sir. That's not really my place to say." Jackson studied her face for a long moment. "You're probably the only person in this house who actually pays attention, Clara. Emily barely talks to me anymore, and when she does, it feels like she's reading from a script." The pain in his voice was genuine, and Clara felt an unexpected wave of sympathy for this man who seemed to be losing his wife, without understanding why. But before she could respond, they heard the front door slam shut. "Jackson, are you home?" Emily's voice carried through the house, artificially bright and cheerful. Jackson straightened his tie and tried to smooth his hair. In the kitchen, Emily swept into the room, designer shopping bags in each hand and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She stopped short when she saw Clara still there. "Oh, Clara, I thought you'd be gone by now." "Just finishing up, Mrs. Smith." Clara kept her voice steady, but her eyes couldn't help darting toward the drawer where the stolen items lay hidden. Emily's gaze followed Clara's, and for just a split second, something dark and dangerous flashed across her perfect features. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Well, don't let us keep you," Emily said, her smile becoming razor-sharp. "I'm sure you have somewhere very important to be." The dismissal was clear, but as Clara gathered her cleaning supplies, she caught Jackson watching his wife with an expression she'd never seen before. like he was seeing a stranger wearing Emily's face. That night, Clara sat in her small apartment, Malaya asleep in the next room, and stared at her phone. She'd typed and deleted a dozen messages to Jackson, each one feeling more impossible than the last. How do you tell a man that his wife is a thief? How do you destroy a family when you're barely holding your own together? But as she looked at her daughter's peaceful face, she knew she couldn't stay silent much longer. Those weren't just objects Emily was stealing. They were people's memories, their security, their trust. And Clara was now an unwitting accomplice to every single theft. Tomorrow, she decided, she would have to make a choice that could cost her everything. But staying silent might cost her something far more precious than a job. It might cost her the ability to look her daughter in the eye and tell her that doing the right thing always mattered, no matter how much it hurt. Clara waits until the house settles into its familiar nighttime rhythm before making her move. The grandfather clock in the foyer strikes 11, its deep chimes echoing through the marble corridors as she slips off her shoes and begins her careful exploration. Every creak of the hardwood floors sounds amplified in the darkness, her heart hammering against her ribs as she climbs the sweeping staircase toward the master wing. The moonlight streaming through the tall windows casts long shadows that dance across the walls, making Clara's already frayed nerves feel ready to snap. She's risking everything, her job, her reputation, maybe even her safety, but that notebook's cryptic entries have been haunting her thoughts for hours. Something about Emily's behavior doesn't add up, and Clara knows she won't sleep until she uncovers the truth. The master bedroom door stands slightly ajar, revealing Emily's walk-in closet beyond. Clara hesitates, listening for any sound of movement from the Smith's room, but only Jackson's steady snoring drifts through the silence. She pushes forward, her bare feet silent against the plush carpet. Emily's closet resembles a high-end boutique more than a storage space. Rows of designer dresses, shelves lined with expensive handbags, and a jewelry display that rivals Tiffany's. But Clara isn't here for the obvious treasures. Her trained eye sweeps the space until she notices something that makes her pulse quicken. A small painting hanging askew on the back wall, revealing the edge of what appears to be a hidden safe. The safe's digital display glows ominously in the dim light. It contains a mystery that could hold all the answers Clara's been seeking. But before she can examine it further, a sound from downstairs freezes her in place. Emily's voice, hushed but urgent, drifting up through the house's ventilation system. Clara creeps toward the bedroom's air vent, pressing her ear against the metal grating. Emily's conversation becomes clearer, and what she hears makes her blood run cold. "I know what I promised, but the timeline's moved up," Emily whispers into her phone. "Jackson's getting suspicious about the missing jewelry, and that maid of ours is too observant for her own good. If she keeps digging around, she's going to ruin everything we've worked for." The person on the other end responds, but Clara can't make out their words. Emily's reply, however, cuts through her like ice. "Don't worry about Clara. I'll handle her. She's just a maid. Nobody's going to believe her word over mine anyway. But we need to move the rest of the pieces this week before she figures out the whole operation." Clara's hand flies to her mouth to stifle a gasp. This isn't just about stolen jewelry. Emily's running some kind of organized scheme. And Clara stumbled into something far more dangerous than she imagined. The casual way Emily dismisses her as just a maid stings worse than any physical blow. "The Cartwright collection needs to disappear by Friday," Emily continues. "My grandmother's emeralds are already gone, and Jackson hasn't noticed yet. We're sitting on hundreds of thousands in authentic pieces, and I refuse to let some nosy housekeeper destroy our biggest payday." The floorboards groan softly under Clara's shifting weight, and she freezes, terrified that Emily might hear. Her mind races as the pieces fall into place, the missing items she'd noticed, the secretive phone calls, the notebook's cryptic entries. Emily isn't just stealing random pieces, she's systematically looting her own home, selling off family heirlooms and insurance fraud schemes. But what chills Clara to the bone isn't just the theft. It's Emily's clear intent to silence her permanently. The threat in her voice when she mentioned handling Clara makes it obvious that her job isn't the only thing at risk. Emily's conversation grows more heated, her voice rising despite her attempts to stay quiet. "I don't care what it takes. This little investigation of hers ends now. Tomorrow, I want her gone, and I want it to look like she quit voluntarily. We've worked too hard to let everything fall apart because some woman got too curious about things that don't concern her. Clara's decision crystallizes in that moment. She can't just quit and walk away, not when Emily's planning to frame her or worse. The notebook, the safe, Emily's confession, it's all evidence of a massive fraud that could destroy the Smith family's reputation and leave Jackson devastated when he discovers his wife's betrayal. But confronting Emily directly could be signing her own death warrant. As Clara carefully retreats from the closet, her mind spinning with plans and possibilities, she realizes that tomorrow morning will bring the most dangerous conversation of her life, one where everything she's discovered will finally come to light, and Emily's carefully constructed lies will crumble around her. Clara's heart pounds as she stands in the hallway, clutching the evidence she's gathered over the past few days. The notebook, the receipts, the photographs of missing items. Everything points to Emily's systematic theft from her own household. But confronting the woman who pays her salary feels like stepping off a cliff. She finds Emily in the dining room, arranging flowers with practiced elegance. The morning light streaming through the bay windows makes everything look deceptively peaceful. But Clara knows better now. "Mrs. Smith, we need to talk." Emily's hands freeze over the white roses. "About what, Clara?" "I'm rather busy this morning." "About the jewelry, about the silverware, about all the things that have been disappearing from this house." Clara steps forward, her voice steady despite her racing pulse. "I know it's you." The color drains from Emily's face, but she forces a laugh. "That's absurd. Why would I steal from my own home?" "Because you're not stealing from your home," Clara says, pulling out the notebook. "You're stealing from your husband. These are pawn shop receipts, Emily. I found them hidden in your closet along with this ledger documenting everything you've taken." Emily's composure cracks like ice under pressure. "You had no right to go through my personal belongings, and you had no right to steal your husband's grandmother's necklace and sell it for drug money." The accusation hangs in the air like a thunderclap. Emily's face crumbles, tears spilling down her cheeks. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is." Clara's voice rises with frustration and hurt. "I trusted you. I defended you when I started noticing things were missing. I thought maybe Jackson was being careless, maybe guests were taking things. But it was you all along." Emily sinks into a dining room chair, her perfectly manicured hands shaking. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under. The expectations, the social obligations, So you decided to fund your lifestyle by stealing from your own family?" Clara's voice cracks with emotion. "Do you have any idea what could happen to me if someone found out I knew about this and said nothing? I could lose everything." At that moment, Jackson's voice echoes from the foyer. "Emily, Clara, is everything all right in there?" Emily's eyes widen with panic. "Please," she whispers desperately, "don't say anything. I can explain." But it's too late. Jackson appears in the doorway, his business attire still crisp despite the early hour. He takes in the scene immediately, his wife's tear-streaked face, Clara's rigid posture, the evidence scattered across the mahogany table. "What's going on here?" His voice carries the authority of a man accustomed to boardroom confrontations. Clara looks between husband and wife, her moral compass spinning wildly. This moment will change everything, and she knows it. "Jackson," Emily begins, but Clara cuts her off. "Your wife has been systematically stealing from your household and selling the items." Clara's voice is steady, professional, but her hands tremble slightly. "I have documentation of everything." Jackson's face goes through a series of expressions: confusion, disbelief, and finally, devastating comprehension. "Emily, is this true?" Emily's breakdown is complete now. Sobs rack her body as she doubles over in her chair. "I never meant for it to go this far. It started with just one piece, something I thought you'd never miss. But then the debts kept growing, and the pressure from my mother about maintaining appearances. And debts." Jackson's voice drops to a dangerous whisper. "What debts?" The confession pours out of Emily like water through a broken dam. Credit cards maxed out on designer clothes and spa treatments, gambling losses at the country club, loans taken against jewelry she'd already sold. The financial web she's woven is intricate and devastating. Jackson stands frozen, processing the magnitude of his wife's betrayal. Clara watches the color drain from his face as Emily reveals debt after debt, theft after theft. "How much?" he asks quietly. $73,000, Emily whispers. The number hangs in the air like a death sentence. Clara's own financial struggles suddenly seem manageable compared to this catastrophe. But what happens next will determine whether this family can survive the truth that's finally been exposed. The morning sun streams through the Smith family's kitchen windows. As Emily sits at the breakfast table, her hands trembling as she holds a steaming cup of coffee. The events of last night have left everyone emotionally drained. But there's something different in the air today, a sense of possibility that wasn't there before. Clara enters the kitchen quietly, her usual confident stride replaced by cautious steps. She's been awake all night, wrestling with a decision that could change everything. Emily looks up, her eyes red-rimmed and vulnerable in a way Clara has never seen before. "Clara," Emily begins, but her voice cracks. She takes a shaky breath and tries again. "I need to tell you something. Everything you discovered last night, it's all true. I've been stealing from my own family, from my friends, from people who trusted me." The confession hangs heavy in the morning light. Clara sits across from Emily, studying the woman who just hours ago she'd considered an enemy. "Why?" Clara asks simply. "Help me understand why someone with all this would risk losing everything." Emily's composure crumbles completely. "My mother," she whispers. "She's in a care facility that costs $15,000 a month. Jackson doesn't know how bad her condition really is, or how much it costs. I've been paying for it myself, but my trust fund ran out months ago. I was too proud to ask for help, too ashamed to admit I couldn't handle it alone." Clara feels her anger dissolving, replaced by something unexpected, compassion. She thinks of her own mother, of the lengths she'd go to protect her. "So you started taking things to sell them?" "At first, just my own jewelry. Then some items I thought Jackson wouldn't miss. But it spiraled out of control. I was so desperate, so scared that if I told him the truth, he'd see me as weak, as a burden." Emily wipes her tears with the back of her hand. "I became the very person I never wanted to be." Jackson appears in the doorway, having heard the last part of the conversation. His face shows a mixture of hurt and understanding as he approaches his wife. "Em, why didn't you trust me with this? We're supposed to be partners." "Because I was terrified you'd leave me," Emily admits, looking up at her husband with raw honesty. "Your first wife left when things got difficult. I thought if you knew how much my family problems were costing us, you'd decide I wasn't worth the trouble." Jackson kneels beside Emily's chair, taking her hands in his. "My first wife left because we stopped talking to each other, because we kept secrets that ate us alive from the inside. I won't make that mistake again." He looks into her eyes with fierce determination. "We'll figure this out together. That's what marriage means." Clara watches this intimate moment and makes her decision. She reaches into her purse and pulls out a small notebook, the same one she'd found in Emily's room. "I haven't told anyone else what I discovered," she says quietly. "And I won't if you're serious about making this right." Emily stares at Clara in disbelief. "After everything I've done, after I lied to you and put your job at risk, you'd protect me?" "I'd protect your family," Clara clarifies, "because I believe people can change, and I believe you want to." She leans forward, her voice gentle but firm. "But you have to actually change. No more lies, no more stealing, no more secrets." Over the following weeks, Emily embarks on a journey of making amends that astounds everyone around her. She returns every stolen item, apologizes to every person she wronged, and enrolls in counseling to address the underlying issues that led to her behavior. Most importantly, she finally tells Jackson the full truth about her mother's condition and the financial strain. Jackson not only forgives her but insists they restructure their finances to properly care for Emily's mother together. "She's family now too," he tells Emily. "We take care of family." Clara becomes an unexpected ally in Emily's transformation. Having grown up in a household where accountability and integrity were non-negotiable values, she helps Emily develop systems to stay honest and transparent. They establish weekly check-ins where Emily can discuss any temptations or struggles without judgment. The most powerful moment comes when Emily asks Clara to accompany her to visit her mother at the care facility. As they sit in the sunny common room, Emily's mother, despite her advancing dementia, seems to recognize the peace in her daughter's face. "You look different, sweetheart," her mother says during a moment of clarity. Lighter somehow, Emily takes her mother's hand, tears flowing freely. "I'm learning to ask for help, Mama, just like you always taught me I should." On the drive home, Clara and Emily sit in comfortable silence until Emily speaks. "I don't know how to thank you for giving me a second chance when you had every right to destroy my life." Clara considers this carefully. "Maybe the way you thank me is by living differently, by choosing honesty even when it's harder than lying, by remembering that everyone deserves the same grace you've received." 6 months later, the Smith household has transformed completely. Emily has started a support group for people struggling with financial shame and secrecy. Jackson has become an advocate for affordable elder care, and Clara has been promoted to household manager, with Emily insisting she deserves both the title and the significant raise that comes with it. The final scene shows all three of them working together in the kitchen, preparing dinner for Emily's mother, who now visits every Sunday. The easy laughter and genuine affection between them proves that sometimes the most profound healing comes not from perfection, but from the courage to be imperfect together. As Clara watches Emily help her mother with dinner, she's reminded that we're all capable of both tremendous mistakes and tremendous growth. The difference lies not in whether we fall, but in whether we choose to get back up and make things right. What would you do if you discovered someone's darkest secret, but also saw their genuine desire to change? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about the power of forgiveness and second chances.